Okay, so let's look at multiplying a few more radicals. If you look, this is a little bit different than the last video. This time we have numbers out in front, coefficients out front. So what do we do with that? Well, you're going to end up just multiplying the numbers out front, but we're still going to follow the first step, which is find the prime factorization of any of the numbers. You see we can write 15. We're going to write that as 5 times 3. So let's recopy this. This is going to be 5 square root of 3 x to the third times 3 square root of 15. We're going to write 5 times 3, and then we've got an x squared, right? Now after we do that, we write all the stuff under the same radicals, and then I'm just going to go ahead and multiply these numbers out front. So we have a 5 and 3. We can multiply those, and that's going to give us a 15 out in front of that radical. Then we've got our square root, and what do we have under the square root? Well, let's do the numbers first. You can see we have 2 3's, so we're going to write that as 3 squared. And then, so we took care of our 3's. Now we've also got this 5, right? So we're going to have a 5. That one's just the first power. And then you can see we have an x cubed and we have an x squared. So we're going to write that as x to the 5th power. And now take a look underneath here. We are looking for exponents that are divisible by what? What's the index of our radical? Well, remember square roots, there's this imaginary 2 up there. So again, we need to break this up. So the 15 is still hanging out up front. This is a square root, and I'm going to draw my big radical. And then we're going to make our 2 piles. We're going to put our pile of stuff that's going to come out of the radical, and then I'm going to have my leftover pile over here. So this is going to be leftover. So what comes out? Let's start right here with this 3 squared. That has an exponent that's divisible by 2 right now, so we're going to put 3 squared in the pile of stuff that's going to come out of the radical. Alright, now we've got the 5. That exponent doesn't have an exponent divisible by 2. I don't think we're going to be able to bring that out, so that's going to be in the leftover pile. So we took care of the 3, and we took care of the 5. Now take a look at this x to the 5th. This exponent is not divisible by 2, but we can break x to the 5th up into x to the 4th. That is divisible by 2, that exponent, and we're going to have an x to the 1st left over. So now, after we do that, our last step is we're going to go ahead and bring the stuff, well, second to last step, we're going to bring this stuff outside of the square root. So what comes out? So I'll continue this over here. We still have our 15. Anything we bring out is going to be multiplied by that. When we bring our 3, we're going to bring a 3 to the 1st out, because remember that you divide the exponent by the index, so 2 divided by 2, we bring a 3 to the 1st, and we have an x to the 4th. We're going to bring it out, and so 4 divided by 2, we bring out an x squared. And then what's left underneath our square root? We've got our, take a look over here, you see we've got those leftovers. Those are going to be underneath the square root. So we have a 5x left over underneath the square root. And now, what do we do with this stuff out here? Well, we have 15 times 3. What is 15 times 3? That gives us a 45. We have a 45, and then we've got an x squared. So that's going to be 45x squared out front, and then we have square root of 5x. All right, let's go down here and take a look at this other one. This is really important to know. I'll try to put a space, but if you don't or not understand, this is going to be a cubed root here. So this x, this is not x to the 3rd. This is x times the cubed root, and same thing, this is not y, this is the cubed root here, okay? So we don't really have any numbers in this problem to do prime factorization of. So all I'm going to do now is take a look right here. We have an x and a y out front of these radicals. We're going to write all this stuff under one big radical, but we're going to put this x and y out front. So out front we have x, y, right? Because those two right here and here, those just hang out front. And then I'm going to put one big cubed root. Remember, this is cubed root, so you got to make sure you write that index. And now let's take a look at this. I have an x to the 5th and x. That's going to give me x to the 6th. And then you can see over here I have y squared and a y to the 3rd. When I put those together, that's going to give me y to the 5th. Now I'm going to try to simplify underneath here. Remember, this time since the cube root, I'm looking for exponents that are divisible by 3. 6 is divisible by 3, 5 is not, so I'm going to have to break that up. So let's make our pile. So I have xy, I have my cubed root, I'm going to make my This red pile is going to be the stuff that's going to come out. The yellow stuff is going to be my leftover. And let's take this one term at a time. X to the 6th, I don't need to break that up at all. That exponent is divisible by 3 right now, so that's going to come out. And then what I need to do is take a look. You see right here I have a y to the 5th. 5 is not divisible by 3. Neither is 4. So I'm going to break this up into y to the 3rd times y squared is going to be left over. So you see 5 wasn't, but you see I broke it up 3 and 2. Those add up to 5, so it's what it originally started with. But this is the stuff that's now going to come out of my radical. I'll go down a little bit. So now we have this xy out front, right? So I'm going to keep that xy out front. Then it's going to be times what comes out here. Remember, when we divide, we bring something out, we divide the exponent by the index. So we're going to bring out an x squared. And 3 divided by 3, we're going to bring out a y to the 1st. And then what's left underneath that cubed root? This is our leftover stuff right here, so we have a y squared left over. Now, how do we combine this stuff out front? Well, you have an x and an x squared, so that's going to give you x cubed. I have a y and a y. Y times y gives us y squared. And then I have my cubed root of y squared left over.